Bula Vinaka and a warm welcome to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM. I'm Louise Kaunisela. As a feminist, it means to acknowledge that the power structures associated with patriarchy fall somewhere between unfair and unbearable for most people. This essential feminist belief can be held by anyone, regardless of gender. So our guest today has been the voice for our less heard women for the past 35 years, and she is none other than the coordinator of the Fiji Women's Crisis Center. Shamima Ali, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great always to catch up with you. I mean, because of our issues, always very relevant. And we'll start off with, can you tell us about the work and services offered by the Fiji Women's Crisis Center?
Definitely. Well, the Crisis Center was established in 1984 by women, for women, and it's based on human rights principles, you know, the rule of law, democracy, and so on, justice for everyone, but particularly for women, and a particular focus on ending violence against women and girls, and now, of course, children. So the core business of the Crisis Center is counseling, and the counseling is feminist counseling, which believes that women's human rights need to be respected, have to be respected, that there is no place for violence in their lives, the kind of violence we are seeing, and that is domestic violence, rape, sexual harassment, and the rape of girls, the rape of children. So those are the things that we are dealing with, and physical and emotional abuse included in there. So that's the core business, dealing with them, listening to their stories, and all our programs at the Crisis Center, this year it's 35 years of our existence, are based on women's experiences of violence, girls' experiences of violence. How do they experience it? What are the dynamics around it? And how also they experience, and that feeds into our advocacy and lobbying, how they experience services. And that means police, the courts, the laws, other services, other counseling services, the health services, all those, wherever they go for help and assistance. And of course, the faith-based organizations and how they respond. So when we hear from the women, we learn from them while we support them and help them through their crisis. We're also sort of gaining information to lobby and advocate for better services, better responses, and so on. So that's called advocacy. So our counselors are not counselors, they are counselor advocates. So they counsel as well as advocate on behalf of each individual. So that's the core business. Then we also have community awareness, because unless we change the mindsets, we are not going to get anywhere. And that's one of the reasons people don't like us. They want us to help women and then shut up about it. They don't want us to ask what are the root causes. And that is, as you said before, rooted in patriarchy, the unfair treatment of women, discrimination, and so on. And that's what we want to unpeel like an onion, get to the core of it, and start working on solutions. How to end this terrible, terrible thing that is amongst us. So that's the other part of it. Training of other agencies like police, social welfare officers, anyone else who wants to have training, awareness raising on sexual harassment with corporate organizations or whoever will ask us to do that. Child abuse, child sexual abuse, and so on. So workers who work in the area of child sexual abuse. So that's the whole training of other agencies so they can respond better and appropriately. That's another area of work. Another area, of course, is the research and publications. We produce our own training manuals. We look globally, and then we adapt whatever is done globally to our needs, Fijian needs and the Pacific needs. And we've got research also, the National Survey on Violence Against Women that is used very widely. We did that in 2011. The next one, after 10 years, we'll be able to see if there have been any changes. The next one is due for 2011, and that has been seen as a credible piece of work. So that's another area of work. Another area is working with men, male advocacy for women's human rights, where men learn, change their own behavior, and influence good behavior in other men in their spheres of influence. So that's another program. And then, of course, we work in the Pacific region, 13 countries around the region, with training, capacity building, mentoring of organizations that want to do this work. So that's basically what the Crisis Center does.
And that's a lot of work, Shamima. And, it's good to know that our women are not alone, that you do have these wonderful services that you give. I mean, for counseling, what has been the feedback of people who come to you? I mean, obviously, you need to let out and let someone know what you're going through to be able to cope.
Exactly. So contrary to popular belief, we are not an organization that breaks up marriages or are men haters
yeah, I can
or a bunch
imagine,
of
yeah.
lesbians, which we don't mind at all,
Oh, dear.
whatever. But that's how we are. But we are termed, people often look at us like that. It's getting less and less now because we've built up the credibility and people are learning more about what we do. We don't break up families. It's the violence and the treatment of women that breaks up families.
Exactly.
It's not in her hands. It's what is happening to her, how society views it, and things like that.
And she's supposed to be putting up with it in silence.
Yes, exactly. And what we're saying to women, no longer break the silence. You no longer have to put it up. There are laws now, there are organizations. The whole tide is changing very slowly, but it is changing. And, even the governments, the government of the day has taken up the cudgels on behalf of women and wanting to end violence against women. So, and faith-based organizations, so those things are changing. A lot of women come in just to talk, to have an affirmation that it is not their fault, never their fault, that what is happening to them is wrong, and they have a right to feel so bad about it. A lot of women are traumatized. Women don't come after the first slap. They come after several beatings, terrible beatings. Women come to us after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years later, after 50 years.
So, I mean, this kind of behavior, are they blinded? Why are they like that? I mean, to be putting up with so much abuse. I mean, mentally, even mentally, that's bad enough as physically as well.
Yes. What is good to see is that younger women are now coming out a lot quicker. Look, I'm a survivor.
Good.
After the third beating, I decided I was going to go because I had places to go, but also I knew in my mind this was wrong. My mother was a survivor, so
okay.
you learn from that. And I knew by the time I grew up, I knew I was not going to stand for that. A lot of women, there is nowhere to go. And this whole idea about marriage, a woman needs a man. That's what she's brought up to believe. You have to have a man, at the end of the horizon, somewhere on the horizon is your knight in shining armor.
That's
and
right.
a lot of times he might be, but a lot of times he isn't. He's this monster in your own house, which is supposed to be your haven, your shelter, and so on. So women, and because everyone else tells her, she goes to the in-laws, she goes to her own mother, own aunts, own grandmother, she goes to her faith-based organization, and so on. And she's often told that we all suffered, we all went through all of that, and that is part of marriage. So women often grow up believing it's part of marriage. We also have this thing about men's ownership of women once they are married, how marriage is seen as a private affair. And what he does with her is his business, their business, and nobody else's.
But I mean, even for the wedding vows, Shamima, what is the wedding vow?
Yes, of course, yes. And that matters to women.
Sounds pretty,
It matters to women. It matters to women because when you say, we look at her and say, how much longer? And she will say, well, I've promised before God until death do us part. And sometimes it does, either through suicide, murder, or something else, So
that's really sad. Hey, but we'll be back shortly on Speak Your Mind, and I hope you're enjoying the program. More coming up shortly. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, and we've got from the Fiji Women's Crisis Center the coordinator Shamima Ali, who is just talking to us about the work that they do and also what you've discovered with your 35 years experience. I mean, you should know what's most relevant. But what work has the FWCC been involved in recently?
Part of our work is also being with the pro-democracy movement, human rights movement, so we get involved throughout both nationally, regionally, and globally, so that's also part of the work. But recently, the counseling work will never change. That keeps on going. That's the core business, and most of our staff are involved in that, so almost, I would say, 75% of the staff is involved in counseling and community education. The same counselors also do that, mobile counseling, going out where there are no centers, going out to places and providing mobile counseling wherever we are allowed to, and so on. A lot of work is being done in the communities. We recently had in partnership with the Ministry for Women and funded by DFED, which is our major funder, donor. We had a breakthrough about over a month ago with the Ethiopian Affairs Board. And that was the first time, and it was so useful and so important. And we had 1 week, not a difficult workshop, but you know how you give it, how you present it to people is very important. It is sensitive when we talk about culture, religion, traditional practices,
exactly.
and so on.
They could very well not agree with you.
Yeah. But you have to have the facts and figures, and you know, and you have to know how to present it, and how to present human rights, you know, to people who would be averse to it, and so on. So teaching within that, and that has really come to fruition, because a lot of the ROCOs, from the provinces, the assistant ROCOs, the deputy ROCOs, all these people were there, and people who make policies within the board and so on. So now we are getting invitations. We've already done Rewa, and Neta Siri today it got deferred because of the rains and so on. So we're going to speak there. Our staff are going to speak there. And other places also that have shown an interest and have invited us over. So this year, I think we will be going out a lot more. A lot of communities, particularly the Ethiopian community, is very interested in this work, and we're seeing a lot of traction within that. So a lot of our Ethiopian speaking staff are involved throughout. There's also a trip we want to go wider into Lomeviti. We've got Koro. We're wanting to go to Ngao, which is my grandmother's place.
Yes.
So we're not going there because of that, but because the national survey has shown the highest rates of violence within the violence against women within the eastern provinces, districts, and so on, the eastern division of Fiji.
Dear.
So we're going to go there. We have got plans to go to Lao, Rotuma this year. Lao is next year, but Rotuma definitely this year for a month. A couple of our staff, Rotuman speaking staff, are going over there with our lawyer. One of our lawyers is also going, because one of the big problems about responses is people don't know the law. They don't know the law. We've got new laws which haven't actually gone out to people, and there is a need to do that. Other people are doing it, but we need to do it in the context of the work that we do. So these are all the things we are doing. The counseling takes place, and of course our regional work is going on. And also our partnerships with the Ministry for Women, with UN Women, those partnerships need to be nurtured and worked through. And what I'm glad to say is that the partnership with the Ministry for Women and other, the police department and so on, those relationships are working out. There always will be tensions because, we can't all be alike. The NGOs have more freedom to speak out and also critique and hold services accountable and so on. But that is something that I'm really happy with, and my staff are very happy with that. Our trustees are very happy with that, and that is getting a lot of traction.
Yes, goodness me, it must be very rewarding for you to be reaching out to people, have, like you've said, have recorded a lot of this violence. So, when you do go to these areas, what kind of information do you share with them? Are you like straight up with the information, and what is the reaction from some people?
Yeah. No, actually, we do very interactive workshops where they go on a journey of discovering gender, what it actually means, where is it all coming from. One of the questions I see you've got here to ask me is, where is this coming from? Why do we have such high rates and so on? Patriarchy, yes, what about it, kind of thing. Well, so, explaining that whole thing about their own experience growing up as a young girl, as a child, where being female and male, whether it made a difference or not. So they discover all of that, how much work a woman does in a day. How much does a man do? Who has the most privileges? Do women have any privileges? So it's that discovery. And the good thing is the men really catch on to that, the unfairness of it. There are a lot of good human being men around.
Yes.
And they catch on very quickly because they say, women do that much work and they have no privileges. What are we doing? We need to change this whole thing. And that's where it comes from, because we give women a lower status, the kind of work we expect her to do, all the drudge work, cook and clean and have children and rear children, look after the aged, look after the sick and all those things, every
even
day.
some families get their sons married off so they can get someone to, look after the house full time.
Yes, full time, yes.
Almost
So
being like a house
actually-
girl again.
It's almost like unpaid labor.
Unpaid labor,
And
yes.
a lot of women say it's okay, but treat us with respect.
Yes.
Don't treat us like a dog or a doormat. You know,
Yeah.
that's
It's
and
fine
that is where the
doing it, but
problem
if
is. Yeah.
you're getting treated with respect and, you know, getting
And no
checks
violence,
and no
and
violence,
no violence,
yes.
and you know, and
And
getting
being grateful, I reckon, you know, for the
yeah.
work that you do, to be
Yes.
appreciated.
Yes, exactly,
Yes,
and
because,
not the, you know, because we've got 64%. Our rate of domestic violence, intimate partner
ooh,
violence in this country is 64%.
that's really
You
high.
know, so it's very, very high. So, you know, so we take people through all of that. Then what is domestic violence? So they tell us what it is, what they have seen, what they have. So it's like that. It's very interactive. So they take ownership.
Yes.
You know, when you teach people with a PowerPoint and you see all these documents that you get from overseas or wherever, the UN, and you put it all up and say, this is domestic, and this is that, and this is gender. And people don't learn. You know, I don't learn like that. You know, it's sometimes good to put up some points. But when you're interactive, and this particular thing is very personal to people, both to men and women.
Yes,
to
because
girls.
it's been happening
Yes.
for, I mean, goodness
Yeah,
me,
it's
ever
almost-
since.
It's become like a part, you know,
Yeah.
of life. Kind of thing.
But it's a good thing that women are actually opening their eyes and
Yes,
realizing,
yes.
I think I want more than this. I can't be treated like this
Yes,
anymore, you know, not
yes,
appreciated,
yes.
and, you know, just taking all the tellings off. Or
Yes.
if you make a cup of tea for your man and he says, oh, that's not hot enough.
It's not on enough. It doesn't have enough sugar. Doesn't have this. Doesn't have
exactly.
that,
But I
yeah.
mean, it's a challenge to, you know, stay in a relationship for a very long time. So
Yeah.
I suppose that's where your counseling would come in. You know,
Yes.
you have to work at it, respect each other, and help each other. Simple.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes it's not simple
Yeah,
as
it's
that.
not. It's not. It's not. It's very complicated, actually.
Okay, well, we'll be back for more on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Thank you for your sweet company. And we've got from the Fiji Women's Crisis Center, the coordinator, Shamima Ali. So I reckon we should go into statistics now. Maybe if you could give us some light on the different cases of abuse that the FWCC has gathered so far this year, and maybe looking back if you'd like.
Yes, definitely. These are just the ones that come to us. Some of them might have been reported to police. They might have gone elsewhere, but actually coming up to us so far this year. And, you know, we're just into the 4th month. We haven't finished it yet. We've seen all our branches in Ba, Nandi, Rakiraki, Lambasa, and Suva. We've seen 321 domestic violence cases, and these are new cases of domestic violence. We've seen 9 adult rape cases, and we've seen 33 child sexual abuse cases. That means including the rape of children. So that's quite high. And the 33 for the child sexual abuse cases, a lot of them have been referred by the DPP's office for us to give support while they're dealing with the survivor and so on. So that's quite a lot. And when we talk about child physical, emotional, and verbal abuse, we've had 11 children who have come up with that. 9 sexual harassment cases that have come up that we have had this year. And these 9 would be, most of them would be within the workplace. So yeah, so those are the kind of statistics we're looking at. And last year alone, we saw a total of 1,082 domestic violence cases, 9 rape cases, 35 child sexual abuse. So, you know, we're actually, that's 2017, sorry. But still, child sexual abuse, we saw 52. And already, that was for the whole year of 2018. Rape, we saw 19. But now, you know, even before the 4 months have passed, we've seen 9. So, you know, we're going to see more, which is a good thing, actually. It's bad, the fact that it is happening.
Yes.
And we still believe that we are not seeing the other almost 90%. You know, this we believe is about 10% that we're seeing being reported. What is the good? The good thing about it is the fact that people are reporting.
Yes.
The more reporting shows that services are improving, there are more referrals, people are willing to come out and report, and there is confidence in the services. So that is a good thing.
Yes, yes. I mean, even we've had, you know, the churches, we've had,
Yes.
you know, the followers reporting, and I don't think they would dream of doing this in the past.
Yes. Yes.
So what would you encourage someone going through, you know, violence or maybe sexual abuse? What would be your advice to this person to, you know, to encourage her or him to report?
Definitely you need to talk to someone about it, because, if you look at the impact of this thing, of domestic violence, it's so much. People can die, people get maimed. There's so many disabilities that women acquire because of the violence they have gone through, ongoing violence. Women have ended up in a coma for 6 months at a time. They're paralyzed, they're on the wheelchair, or they've been blinded, their eardrums burst, fractures, broken bones, fingers cut off, all kinds of things. So you need to report as soon as possible. And, for people, I would say, if you can get to a phone, the number 1560, it's really important. This is the government FWCC a toll-free helpline for domestic violence, but you can call for anything else, whether it's rape, child sexual abuse, and so on. You can call this number 1560. Remember, someone will help you at the end of it. And if someone doesn't help you, you give me a call, because they're supposed to be. We are running those lines, and our counselors are on duty all the time, 24/7 this is. So call, come into a crisis center, tell someone about it, go to a police station nearest to you and talk to them till they listen. Tell your health worker what is happening to you. So even if you're in a remote area, tell your village nurses that you're going to the health center, tell them what is happening to you. So tell someone about it, and and if you reach a crisis center, you will get all the help that you need. We can't promise you that we can end the violence, but at least we can give you support so your trauma is minimized, is lessened, and you might have other options as to what to do with your life. Do not listen to anyone who forces you to reconcile. This is a crime being committed, and people die here. And one day you might die. You might take some drastic action that is not useful at all, and it can be very, very harmful to you and your family. So don't listen to anyone who tells you that you have to stay and suffer. Ignore those kind of people. You listen to people who will help you to get out of it, or somebody who will work with you to give you the support that you need.
That's right. That's excellent advice, but it's so sad to see women putting up with it.
Yes.
Well, you've given the right things, but
also the society, can I just say, Louise?
Yes, sure.
Society is so much responsible for this, because we condone this kind of violence against women. We sort of have this attitude that women just have to put up with it. Don't shame your husband. We protect the perpetrator, that man who does this to his wife in front of his children and does it to his children too. There's also marital rape within that, and within domestic violence, when we're talking about intimate partner violence, domestic violence, and so on. So, and we often, because, what will people say? Who will be the breadwinner? The breadwinner argument. Everyone uses it. Even police have used it, because they will say, and when that man steals someone's cows or someone's mobile phone or something like that, does a break-in into a house, we never say, don't do anything because he's the breadwinner. No, only when he's abusing and committing crimes against his wife and children, we use the breadwinner argument. So always making excuses, blaming women for the violence. These are the things we need to move away from and look at domestic violence, intimate partner violence, rape, the sexual abuse of children, the rape of children, both boys and girls, as the crime that it is.
Right. So, Shamima, what should the response of cases of gender-based violence by our police be?
Definitely, police have a big role to play. They are major stakeholders in this work. And I must say that there has been a lot of improvement, but still a long way to go. It depends on the kind of training they get, some realistic training about what is happening. They need to, and I'm talking about they need to be trained by us, because we are there at the coalface all the time with them. We know how things can be improved and how it doesn't. So, because police also, or any other service provider, the health workers, they go in with the same attitudes. We grow up in the same culture, and those attitudes come in between us and our profession. And unless somebody tells us otherwise, and this is during the training stage, if they don't go through this, they will bring whatever we learn at home, in our communities, in our religious groups, we will bring it into our workplace, and that's how it plays out. Blame the woman, breadwinner argument, try to reconcile, because, our religions tell us that we shouldn't break up families, we should stay together. So all those things come in. Whereas,
and make it harder.
Yes, make it harder, because what they need to do is stick to the